Good day, Doc. Good day, classmates. I am Gabriel Regalado, and together with my sister, Katrina Regalado, we will be reporting about the historical foundation of education, or what we call the education during the ancient era. So, the education before was very simple. Where technology is not yet present, gadgets, electronics, and more. The education during ancient era has four educational thoughts. What are those? First, we have education for conformity. Next, we have education for the preservation of social stability. Next, we have education for the development of individuality. And lastly, we have education for Unitarianism, or education for conformity. It speaks more of the traditions and culture. What were the traditions in terms of education during ancient era? It has aims to number one, to survive. This is their basic goal before. Find any means to survive life, hunger, and day-to-day living. They are using, of course, different methods and means to survive. Next, we have to conform to the tribe to which they belong. So before, there are groups of people or ancient people who forms their own tribe, who shares their own culture and beliefs to be practiced. Okay, we also have here the two types of education during ancient era. What are those? First, we have the practical education, or what we call the vocational or domestic training. So with this, parents help their own children and teaching more on practical doings, the basics of survival, how to find their own food, how to take good care of their own surroundings, as well as to cope up with their daily life activities. Next, we have theoretical education, or what we call intellectual or religious training. So each tribe exercises their own culture and beliefs as part of their training and education. Of course, they have their own rituals as well, and of course, different deities. Now let's proceed with the contents of this era. So it is basically ritualistic and prescriptive. Nowadays, there are a lot of contents introduced in the current education system. Before, they follow their own rituals and their tribes are strict with it, so they must all follow. All right, next we have agencies. As today, we have a lot of departments that were developed and running. So before, the only agency that foster and improve their training and actual activities is their own family. Next, today's teachers do take a hard time in solving grades for their children or students, measure their level of understanding and things they learn. So on ancient era, there is no grade, no grading system, or levels of instructions that they are following. So students are not graded and they are not afraid of failing because there is no such thing as pass or fail. Unlike today, if you get failing grades, it would result for a child to be stressed or can even cause a lot of problems. If you can see in the news, there are also some students who would commit suicide due to failure grades. And also, if you can still remember the movie Three Idiots, then on that movie, the guy committed suicide because the teacher informed his parents that their child cannot graduate for the current school year. So the result was the student gets suicide. Next, we have the contents. So contents were language, literature, religious beliefs, as mentioned earlier. Also, their organization, they have elementary and higher level, depending on the age of the child or person. Of course, we have here the agencies, which are home, elementary, and secondary schools, no college or tertiary yet. So you may wonder why some of our grandparents haven't finished any degrees. Next, the methods were, of course, dictation, which starts from their parents or leaders of each tribe. No wonder today there are some dictators still. We also have memorization, So before, they are good in memorizing things. They get good memories. Next, conscious imitation. They are good imitators with their surroundings. Sound of every animal they are interacting with or more. And lastly, harsh discipline. Unlike today, you cannot impose harsh discipline to a child because you might end up in a Rapi Tulfo in actual live reported for a child or for hurting a child. So before, students are really disciplined well by their parents and leaders. And to continue the topic, let's have a sister, Miss Katrina Regalado. Thank you.
So to continue our discussion about the historical foundation of education during the ancient era, I will be discussing the last two education thoughts. So the third one is the education for the development of individuality or the development of the characteristics of a certain individual. So its aim is to promote individual success and welfare through the harmonious development of the various aspects of human personality. So the types of training conducted were military training, physical training, the moral and or civic and domestic training. So it includes gymnastic or paramilitary exercises, the 3 R's or the reading, writing, and arithmetic, and the liberal education. How Spartan boys turned into warriors. So some ancient records state that half of the babies in Sparta died, and not all babies were given a fair chance for a living. So those boys who are qualified to become a warriors are only the healthy ones. Of gymnastics during the ancient era. So the agencies in this education thought are state, the barracks type institution, and the family. Okay, so when you say barracks, these are usually a group of long buildings built to house military personnel or laborers. The methods used were training, harsh discipline, imitation, memorization, and the principle of individual differences. So the organization in this education thought are as follows. So for Spartan, from birth to 7 years old, they are still under the care of their mother. From 7 to 18 years old, they will be in barracks. From 18 to 20 years old, they will undergo professional war training. 20 years old, they will take an oath of allegiance. 30 years old, they are required to marry and become a full-fledged citizen. So for Athenian, from birth to 7 years old, they are still under the care of the father. 7 to 16 years old, undergo musical and physical education. 16 to 18 years old, they will be in public gymnasium. 18 to 20 years old, they will be in military service. 20, they will have their full citizenship. These are the example of Spartan barracks. There is an illustration of how Sparta used harsh training to produce perfect warriors. So the last education thought is the education for Unitarianism on this. So its aim is to educate the Roman youth for realizing national ideals. Verb bonus. Say verb bonus, it means a good man. So the types of training conducted were physical training and utilitarian. So it includes cultural, professional, and the 12 tables. So the agencies included were family and the military, and its organization are as follows. So from 7 to 10 years old, they will be in elementary, both boys and girls. So 10 to 16 years old, they will be secondary, but boys only. 16 onwards, higher, also boys. So the methods used were memorization and imitation, the exercise in good literary, the intensive drill and parts of speech or grammatical elements. 12 tables, or also known as the Law of the 12 Tables, was the first step towards a fully codified legal system that protected the rights of all citizens and permitted wrongs to be redressed. This, or to sum it all up, so first is the culture was passed on and preserved for a generation, which is true. Tribal people were able to adjust and adapt to political and social life. Liberal education was integrated in the curriculum. The complementary development of the person became vital for his cultural development and for the social transformation of the state. The concept of educational ladder was introduced. So that's the end of our report. Thank you.